Okay, so I want to talk about cult information control. The way a cult works is there's this bubble and everybody in the cult receives information that comes from the leader. So it's sort of like there's one television station playing and that's the news that everybody has to pay attention to. That's the news everyone has to believe. Sort of imagine the most authoritarian countries that exist in the world or have existed. It's sort of like that. Any news that comes from the outside has to be ignored. And there's all kinds of, interesting punishments for people that actually listen to news from the outside. And one of the things we were taught is to listen to any news that says anything negative about the leader is well, first of all, it's dishonorable information. It's dishonorable media, but if you listen to it, if you pay attention to it, if you give it any room, you are being dishonorable. So that was the way that they maintained control over not listening to anything on the outside. There's one source of information, and that's whatever the leader says. So everyone checks with the leader to see, well, what's the truth of any given situation? Now, there's another aspect to this that's interesting, which is if the leader recognizes that there are people about to defect or have defected, they have to make sure that if people on the inside of the bubble do listen to anything they say, that the leaders preloaded them with the right framing. And the right framing basically is those people are evil. The people on the outside of the bubble are evil. Don't listen to them. And the leader spends inordinate amounts of time triangulating everybody against whoever leaves. And the leader comes up with all these sort of terms, like these anti-terms, like they may say anti-humanitarian, anti-conscience. They may say things like they've turned to the dark side or they're suppressives. And so basically, the reason that the leader's doing this is so that when the defectors do talk, and they are going to talk, everybody in the inside can run whatever they're saying through the framework of, oh, well, they're suppressives. Oh, well, they're this. Oh, well, they're that. And that's how the leader maintains control over information that's coming in, because the last thing the leader wants is for anybody to seriously question. So it's so profoundly effective. I'll give you an example. Like a number of us defected, May, June 2017, the earlier ones of that particular generation. We had a limited amount of time to try to explain to people what was going on, because the minute the leader gets wind of, oh, those people are leaving and they're going to do this, that, or the other, they had to start this disinformation campaign, which was very effective, saying things like, they're criminals, as I said, they're suppressives, they never worked through their issues, they had some stush about something and now they're attacking the organization. And they had to work very quickly. And I know it was effective because even now, 4 years later, people that came out later still will not talk to some of us. They still see us as these evil, terrible people because that's what they were taught on the inside. So one thing to understand, if you are to be a successful cult leader, if you are, you must maintain absolute control over information. You need to make sure that people do not look at what you do not want them to look at. And you can even go so far as to, like, let's say people are saying things. Let's say they're saying something like, they're branding women, there's trafficking, there's coercion. What you can do as a cult leader is you can make fun of them. You can actually joke about what they're saying. You could say things like, they're crazy. They're saying things like, we're branding women. Why would we do that? That's insane. So the idea is to make fun of the defectors so that when the defectors actually say the truth will sound ridiculous. That's very, very important. Many people in 2017, when we said, this is what's happening, they would say, that's insane. Nobody would brand. I mean, why would they brand these women? That's insane. They just couldn't believe it because the disinformation campaign was so profound at that point that the truth had been ridiculed already. So bear in mind, this is how information control works. And, it works in, in organizations, it works in churches, there are entire very authoritarian countries where this is how it works. So two things. I'm curious about, like in your particular cult, what was the method of information control? How did the leader make sure that people on the inside wouldn't take defectors seriously? I'm curious about that. And then, it's important to know that if you are in a situation where you're seeing this pattern that I'm discussing, you're probably in a cult, and it's worth examining.